For 5 years, she had been the sweetest teacher in the school. Never yelled, never got angry, always patient with every child. But when the classroom door burst open and she saw the gun pointed at her students, Miss Sarah remembered exactly who she was before she became a teacher. And that person knew how to fight. Sarah Martinez had been teaching kindergarten at Sunshine Elementary for 5 years. She was known throughout the school as the gentlest teacher on staff. She spoke in soft whispers, never raised her voice, and had infinite patience with even the most challenging 5-year-olds. Parents loved her. Children adored her. Other teachers often asked how she managed to stay so calm and nurturing, even on the most chaotic days. What they didn't know was that before she became Miss Sarah the kindergarten teacher, she had been Sergeant Sarah Martinez of the Los Angeles Police Department, 10 years of patrol duty, 3 years in Swat, and specialized training in hostage negotiation and crisis intervention. She had left the force after her partner was killed in the line of duty. The grief, the trauma, the constant danger, it had all become too much. She wanted a different life, a peaceful life. A life where she could nurture instead of fight, where she could protect children through education rather than weapons. For 5 years, she had successfully buried that part of herself. Until today. It was 10:30 a.m. on a Tuesday morning. Sarah was reading The Very Hungry Caterpillar to her class of 23 5-year-olds when she heard the sound that changed everything. Gunshots, 3 of them, from somewhere in the main hallway. Sarah's police training kicked in instantly, even as her teacher persona tried to stay calm. She recognized the sound immediately, a .45 caliber handgun, close range, probably near the main office. The children looked up at her with confused faces. "Miss Sarah, what was that loud noise?" asked Emma, a little girl with pigtails. Sarah's mind was racing through protocols she hadn't used in 5 years. Active shooter situation, multiple potential victims, children at risk, no backup immediately available, but outwardly, she smiled calmly at her students. "That was just some construction work, sweethearts. But we're going to play a very special game now, okay?" Sarah moved to her desk and quietly pressed the silent alarm button that connected directly to the police station. Then she turned to face her class with the same gentle smile they knew and loved. "We're going to play quiet mice. Everyone needs to sit in our reading corner, as quietly as little mice. The quietest mouse wins a special prize." The children giggled and moved to the carpeted reading area in the corner of the room furthest from the door. Sarah's police training had taught her to always position civilians away from entry points. As the children settled, Sarah heard footsteps in the hallway. Heavy boots, deliberate pace, someone moving with purpose, checking rooms systematically. Sarah moved to her supply closet and quietly retrieved something the school district didn't know she kept there, a small canister of pepper spray, hidden behind the construction paper. Old habits die hard. The footsteps stopped outside her door. Sarah positioned herself between the door and her students, her body language still appearing calm and nurturing to the children. But her stance now showed the subtle positioning of someone trained in defensive tactics. The door handle turned. "Remember, little mice," Sarah whispered to her students. "Stay very, very quiet." The door opened slowly, and a man stepped inside. Mid-30s, wearing dark clothes, carrying a handgun. His eyes scanned the room frantically until they landed on the group of children. "Perfect," he muttered. "Little kids are always good for negotiating." Sarah stepped forward, placing herself directly between the intruder and her students. When she spoke, her voice was still gentle, but there was something different now. Something controlled and purposeful. "Sir, I'm going to need you to lower your weapon and step back into the hallway." The man laughed bitterly. "Lady, I don't think you understand the situation here. I'm taking some of these kids with me. Insurance policy." "I understand the situation perfectly," Sarah replied calmly. "And I'm telling you that's not going to happen." The man raised his gun toward Sarah. "You're just a kindergarten teacher. You don't get to tell me anything." Sarah's eyes changed. For the first time in 5 years, Sergeant Martinez was fully present. "You're right," she said quietly. "I am a kindergarten teacher, but before that, I was LAPD SWAT for 3 years. I've been in 14 hostage situations, and I've never lost a civilian." The man's confidence wavered slightly. Sarah continued speaking in the same calm, controlled tone she'd once used to de-escalate armed standoffs. "Right now, you're thinking, this was supposed to be easy. Walk in, grab some kids, use them to get out safely. But it's not going to work that way." She took a small step forward. "Because while you were focused on those children, you failed to notice that I already triggered the silent alarm. Police response time to this school is 4.5 minutes. That was 3 minutes ago." The man's eyes darted toward the door. Then back to Sarah. "You're lying. I'm not. And you know I'm not, because you can hear the sirens now." In the distance, the sound of police sirens was growing louder. Sarah continued, her voice remaining steady and authoritative. "Here's what's going to happen. You're going to lower your weapon, walk out of this classroom, and surrender to the officers outside, because the alternative is trying to hold position in a room with one exit against trained SWAT officers." "I'll shoot you first," the man said, but his voice lacked conviction. "No, you won't," Sarah replied, "because you're not a killer. You're desperate, you're scared, and you made some bad choices, but you're not here to hurt children. If you were, you would have already done it." The man's hand was shaking now. The sirens were getting closer. "I can't go to prison," he whispered. "You're going to prison either way," Sarah said gently. "The question is whether you go as someone who threatened children, or someone who made the right choice when it mattered most." Behind Sarah, 23 5-year-olds sat in perfect silence, somehow understanding that their beloved teacher was protecting them in a way they'd never seen before. The man looked at the children, then at Sarah, then at the door where the sounds of police officers were now audible in the hallway. Slowly, he lowered his weapon, put it on the floor, and stepped back. Sarah instructed. He complied. Moments later, SWAT officers burst through the door and took the man into custody. Sarah immediately turned to her students, her demeanor shifting back to the gentle teacher they knew. "You were all such good quiet mice," she said with a warm smile. "The game is over now." As the officers led the suspect away, one of them approached Sarah. "Ma'am, that was exceptional crisis management. Have you had training?" Sarah smiled. "Just a former life." Later, as parents arrived to pick up their children, Sarah hugged each student goodbye as she always did. To them, she was still just Miss Sarah, their sweet kindergarten teacher who read them stories and helped them tie their shoes. But now she knew something she'd forgotten during 5 peaceful years of teaching. Sometimes the gentlest people are gentle by choice, not by nature. And when the people they love are threatened, that choice can change in an instant. The principal approached her as the last child left. "Sarah, I had no idea about your background. The police told me what really happened in there." Sarah nodded. "I don't talk about it much. I came here to leave that life behind. And yet it's say 23 children today." Sarah looked around her empty classroom, at the reading corner where her students had huddled, at the supply closet where she'd kept her old instincts alive, at the door where she'd faced down an armed intruder with nothing but words and training. "Maybe some things we never really leave behind," she said quietly. "Maybe they just wait until we need them most." That night, Sarah went home to her quiet apartment and made herself a cup of tea, just like she had every day for 5 years. But before bed, she did something she hadn't done in a long time. She opened the closet where she kept her old police commendations and service awards. For 5 years, they'd been hidden away, part of a life she thought she'd outgrown. Now she understood that she hadn't outgrown that life. She had evolved it. Tomorrow, she would go back to being Miss Sarah, the gentle kindergarten teacher who spoke in whispers and read fairy tales. But she would also be the woman who stood between danger and innocence when it mattered most. Sometimes the strongest people are the ones who choose to be gentle. And sometimes, when everything is on the line, that gentleness becomes their greatest strength.